Senate screening of President Buhari's cabinet nominees began in Abuja on Wednesday. AFCC has sealed some of Imo former governor's properties in Owerri, Okorocha's teams. On the international scene, Boris Johnson wastes no time conveying top team to begin plans for British exit from the EU in October. And in sport, House of Representatives orders Sports Ministry to take care of Falconet's former player, Bidemi Aluko's medical bills.
This is ANN News.
Expressed confidence they would bring positive change to their offices. Former Benue State Governor Senator George Akuma, also a ministerial nominee, says the next level of President Buhari's administration will be more productive. Akuma told the news agency of Nigeria that Buhari was committed to his agenda and as such has carefully put together a team to assist in achieving the goal of moving the country forward. He promised that although he cannot do much by himself, he and his colleagues will do their best for the country and its citizens. Senator Ita Enang, Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, says he's happy with the ministerial nominees screening process. He said it is obvious that President Buhari took his time to select those he called men of good standing. Enang said relationship between the executive and the legislature is good and both arms of government are working together seamlessly. While encomiums are being showered on the nominating and screening processes by some, the Abundant Nigeria Renewal Party, ANRP, is not happy about the nomination of only 7 women of the 43 names being screened. The party says it is disappointed by the low number of women nominated by the president. ANRP national spokesman Shesu Akuma told the news agency of Nigeria on Wednesday in Awka that the number represents approximately 16%, which is extremely low and disappointing. The 7 women on the list are Sharon Ikeazo, Zainab Ahmed, Bemisola Saraki, Ramatu Tijani Aliyu, Sadiya Farouk, Mariam Katagum, and Pauline Talum. Akuma said gender parity in government could foster good governance and national development, especially because half of the nation's population are women. He called for 50-50 parity across genders. He said that advocacy for 50-50 inclusion is not just a feminist fad playing to the gallery. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, AFCC, has confirmed on Wednesday that it has traced and marked some properties belonging to former Imo State Governor Rochester Okorocha, as well as those of his family members and cronies. The anti-graft agencies said the action was a fallout of their painstaking investigation and the failure of the suspects to honor the Commission's invitation for questioning on the property of their acquisition. In his reaction, Imo West Senator Rochester Okorocha said most of the sealed properties had been owned before he became governor. The lawmaker also denied in a statement by his media aide that the EFCC had invited him and the management of his colleges and other establishments that have now been sealed. The statement said the Rogers Foundation College, sealed by EFCC in Owerri, had more than 3,000 students, most of whom are orphans. Also sealed was East High College and Academy in Owerri. The statement said the proprietor of that school is Uloma Rochester Nwosu. It said this whole thing points to current state governor Meka Ihedioha, whom he claims is launching a war against him. The country now has a substantive Chief Justice, and President Muhammadu Buhari has sworn in Justice Muhammad Tanko on Wednesday as the 18th Chief Justice of Nigeria. Tanko takes over from Justice Walter Nohe after acting in the position since January. Shortly after his swearing in, Chief Justice Muhammad says he will partner with journalists and other stakeholders to sanitize Nigeria's judicial system. The Chief Justice has urged journalists to expose substantiated cases of corrupt practices in the judiciary. Muhammad says he would like to see Nigeria's judiciary become the best in the world. He says it is one of the best in Africa. Nigeria is one of the most internet-penetrated countries in Africa. There were 92 million internet users, or 41% in the country last year. This figure is projected to grow to almost 190 million, or 85% by 2023. Although internet is widespread in the country, the frustration brought on by the slow download speed is remarkable. Why so? Reporter Deji Badmus has the answer.
If there's one place in Africa where internet penetration is growing very rapidly, it's Nigeria. As at March this year, Nigerian Communication Commission (NCC), the body that regulates internet and telecom services in the country, says there were 115.9 million internet users in Nigeria. That figure may have even gone higher now. But while more Nigerians are getting connected online, the quality is becoming an issue, which is exactly what the UK-based price comparison website Cable captured in its report, something almost every Nigerian internet user agrees with.
It's very annoying actually. Like sometimes I just quit, like just leave it for like yesterday I was trying to download a movie and it was like on Net Nigeria it showed like how many days before it would download, like more than 3 days. So I was like, am I going to stay here for more than 3 days?
It's very, very frustrating. Like it's unexplainable, but I don't know. I don't know what the cause could be, but if they could find a solution, I'll be very happy.
Virtually all the internet service providers in Nigeria claim to offer 4G LTE service, which is supposed to come with high-speed internet. But rather than improve, the quality of internet speed is deteriorating. Experts say the problem lies squarely with infrastructure.
One is the issue of power. Two is the issue of legacy devices that they have within their network. Like some of the providers still use 3G devices, you know, and 3G is limited. The speed you can have on 3G is limited. And again, the issue of vandals, where you have a lot of downtime due to maybe when they have a fiber optic cable cut here and there, they switch to the next available method for them to transmit, like using microwave radios. Microwave radios cannot carry as much capacity as a fiber optic cable will carry.
There's also the problem of capacity for some of the service providers who are literally biting more than they could chew.
Let me use road networks to give you that example. When you have a 4-lane road and you have fewer vehicles on that road, they could move at faster speeds. But when you have more vehicles on that road, even though it's a 4-lane road, those vehicles will move at a slower pace. So for you to move faster on those, you have to increase the number of lanes so that more vehicles can come on it and move faster. That's exactly what we need to do about capacity.
It's not as if it's impossible to get good quality internet speed in Nigeria. You actually can, especially in big cities like Lagos and Abuja. But the problem is that it comes at a premium, and not many can afford it.
The cost of running every base station is very expensive, and then as a businessman you have to, you know, factor that into your profit, you know. So again, if you want good internet, you have to pay for it.
Despite the slow speed, more and more Nigerians are still embracing the internet and getting connected, hoping that someday soon the issue of speed will be a thing of the past.
Coming up, African stories. 6 killed in suicide attack on Somalia government headquarters in Mogadishu. And later, international news. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his team begin planning British exit from the EU by October deadline.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is Anah News in African Stories. Tunisia's 92-year-old president, Bedi Caid Essebsi, has died at the military hospital in Tunis. Essebsi was the world's oldest sitting president. He was admitted in the hospital on Wednesday. He was hospitalized for a week late last month after suffering what authorities described as a severe health crisis. Essebsi helped guide the North African country's transition to democracy after a 2011 revolution. He won Tunisia's first free presidential election in 2014 and became a leading political figure in the country's fortunes since then. 7 days of national mourning has been declared. Parliament Speaker Mohamed Anakio will be sworn in as interim president later on Thursday, in line with the constitution. Somalia's information minister says 6 persons, including district commissioners and local government chiefs, have been killed at municipal government headquarters in the capital, Mogadishu, when a suicide bomber walked into the mayor's office during a security meeting and blew herself up. The latest of many such attacks, Al-Qaeda-linked Islamic militant groups Al-Shabaab says it carried out the bombing, hoping to target the newly appointed U.S. citizen, UN Special Envoy to Somalia, James Swan. They missed because he had met with the mayor earlier and had left the municipal building before the blast occurred. Information Minister Mohamed Abi Hayir has called it a terrorist act. Al-Shabaab seeks to overthrow Somalia's central government and has been carrying out regular attacks in Mogadishu despite the heavy presence of African Union peacekeepers and U.S.-trained Somalia troops. Kenya's bid for a seat on the UN Security Council when a seat becomes vacant later in the year has received endorsement from Botswana. While on a visit to Nairobi, Botswana President Mogwitsi Masisi says his country would back Kenya on the basis of trust. He said Gaborone expects in return support from Nairobi and other international bids. Reporter Robert Nagila reports.
This was the first meeting between the two leaders since President Eric Masisi came to power in 2018. Masisi was accorded full state honors, including a gun salute. The two leaders appear to have hit it off immediately. At the core of their discussions was the strengthening of bilateral ties between Kenya and Botswana.
President of the Republic of Kenya.
That was evident when the two leaders emerged from their talks to announce support for Kenya's bid for a non-permanent seat at the UN Security Council.
They didn't need to ask for their opportunity to be voted into the Security Council of the United Nations on a non-permanent basis. Botswana will vote before Kenya votes itself in.
The two leaders presided over the 5th session of the Joint Permanent Commission on Cooperation, in which several agreements in trade and security were signed by their delegations.
My administration is keen to broaden our areas of cooperation to include the minerals, mining sector, livestock breeding, trade, tourism promotion, agribusiness, as well as manufacturing.
Also discussed was the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, which came into force recently, and the Africa Union Agenda 2063. Later on Tuesday, the two leaders held a roundtable meeting with business leaders from both countries to explore opportunities in both countries.
The first China-Uganda Industrial Capacity Cooperation Exposition is in progress in Kampala till Friday. Organizers say this is the third in Africa. The previous two were held in Kenya and Ethiopia last year. The China Council for the Promotion of International Trade said in a statement the expo would attract 43 enterprises from 12 provinces and cities in China seeking to explore investment opportunities in Uganda.
This one, 96.
Chinese brands, products and technology on display in Uganda. Everything from agricultural machinery to green energy solutions, construction to cars.
You can see they have different machines, and not many of us can actually travel to go to China. So to me, this is a very good exposure to our business community, and we're very happy about it.
The idea is to create a favorable platform for Chinese and Ugandan enterprises to cooperate and explore opportunities for investment.
Uganda is in the early stage of industrialization. China's production capacity, capital, equipment, and technologies will bring new opportunities for Uganda to accelerate its industrialization.
The show is the first in Uganda, but the third in a series of China-Africa expositions. The first two exhibitions were held in Kenya and Ethiopia. Chinese firms are involved in oil and gas activities, road construction, power dam construction, and the manufacturing and transport sectors.
For the past 6 years, China steadily ranked among the top sources of foreign direct investment for Uganda, to the tune of 1.2 billion worth of investment. And these are investors who have been licensed by Uganda Investment Authority, which will translate in creating 45,000 jobs in this country.
Statistics from the Ministry of Commerce of China show that last year Beijing invested more than $200 million in Uganda, its third largest investment on the African continent. And this expo could attract more investments to the country as Chinese and Ugandan companies sign on the dotted line.
When we return, international news. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his team begin planning British exit from the EU by October deadline. And later, sport. Reps orders Sports Ministry to take care of Falconers former player Bidemi Aluko's medical bills.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and World Event. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson will meet his Brexiteer-dominated team of senior ministers for the first time on Thursday to plot how to persuade the European Union to agree to a new Brexit deal ahead of the October exit deadline. Johnson's dramatic rise to Britain's top job sets up the world's fifth largest economy for a showdown with the EU and a potential constitutional crisis or election at home, as lawmakers have vowed to thwart a no-deal Brexit. Britain's new leader promised to do a new Brexit deal with a bloc in fewer than 100 days, but warned if EU leaders refused what he termed a remote possibility, then Britain would leave without a deal. No ifs or buts. Prime Minister Johnson told the European Union on Thursday the Irish border backstop would have to be struck out of the Brexit divorce agreement if there was to be an orderly exit with a deal. And as Prime Minister Boris Johnson settles in at 10 Downing Street on the promise to get Brexit done, EU leaders have reiterated their commitment to the deal and said so-called mini-deals would not ensure an orderly UK exit from the European Union. After a special meeting with Chief Brexit negotiator Michael Barnier, the European Parliament's Brexit steering group says an orderly exit is only possible if guarantees are given for citizens' rights, the financial settlement, and the backstop that in all circumstances ensures no hardening of the border on the island of Ireland. Safeguards for the Good Friday Agreement and protects the integrity of the single market are guaranteed. All three issues are addressed in the withdrawal agreement, and the EU says talks will not be reopened on the legally binding part of the Brexit deal, which the new UK Prime Minister has vowed to renegotiate with the EU. Barnier has added that the EU will never choose a no-deal Brexit option. A U.S. former special counsel Robert Mueller has told Congress his invitation an investigation of Russian meddling in the 2016 U.S. presidential election did not exonerate President Donald Trump of allegedly obstructing justice by trying to thwart the probe, even though the U.S. leader has frequently claimed it did. Mueller explained that Trump could not be criminally charged now because of a long-standing Justice Department policy prohibiting the indictment of a sitting president. But he said the president could be charged for obstruction of justice once his term ends. Trump has often maintained Mueller's investigation was a witch hunt, but the special prosecutor says it was not. Mueller deflected dozens of questions about his 22-month probe and the nearly 450-page report produced by his team of prosecutors. The former special counsel has testified 88 times before congressional panels during his many years as director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And Puerto Rico Governor Ricardo Rosselló has announced his resignation after nearly 2 weeks of furious protest and political upheaval demanding he should go. The demonstrations were touched off by a leak of crude and insulting chat messages between the governor and his top advisors. A crowd of demonstrators outside the governor's mansion in Old San Juan erupted into cheers and singing after his announcement on Facebook just before midnight. The online messages involving the governor and 11 other men infuriated Puerto Ricans, already frustrated by corruption, mismanagement, economic crisis, and the sluggish recovery from Hurricane Maria nearly 2 years ago. Rosselló, a Democrat elected in 2016, is the first governor to resign in Puerto Rico's recent history. The island of Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory of more than 3 million American citizens.
Still ahead, sports. House of Representatives order Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development to take care of Falconet former player Bidemi Aluko's medical bills. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and Sport. 9 days after a report on ailing Falconet former goalkeeper Bidemi Aluko went viral, the House of Representatives has asked the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development to take care of her medical bills. Aluko has been down with breast cancer since 2017 while playing for Rivers Angels in the Nigerian Women's Premier League. The retired keeper said the ailment forced her to quit football. The Green Chamber of the National Assembly, following a unanimous adoption of a motion during plenary, also asked the ministry to seek better medical attention for Aluko in India or Israel. And World Football Body FIFA has slapped a 10-year ban on a senior African soccer official on Wednesday for financial wrongdoing, including taking funds from a campaign tackling Ebola. FIFA said its ethics judges banned Musa Beliti, a member of the Confederation of African Football Executive Committee, for 10 years plus a fine. In December 2015, Beliti was blocked as a FIFA presidential candidate after the Court of Arbitration for Sport upheld a ruling that he failed an integrity check. Current FIFA president Gianni Infantino won that election 2 months later. FIFA Ethics Committee has been formally investigating Beliti since last May after soccer's world body audited financial accounts of the Liberian Soccer Federation, which he ran. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and all the breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.